Please stand. And I'll ask the clerk for the roll call.
Mayor Sue Patterson,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Warren Dickert,
Present.
Councillor Harold Fleet,
Present.
Councillor Dave Hawking,
Present.
Councillor Carol Hudson,
Present.
Councillor Brandon Cable, Councillor Susan Sackle,
Present.
Oh,
thank you, Councillor Cable.
okay, so we will begin with the land acknowledgement. As we work toward reconciliation with Indigenous people, we begin our meeting today by respectfully acknowledging that we are situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, and further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. So welcome to our regular council meeting for Monday, June the 19th, 2023. Good afternoon, council, staff, guests, the viewing public, and the media. Council, does anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest or a conflict of interest? Seeing none, if one should arise during the meeting, you may declare it then. Item 5 on our agenda is additions or deletions. And at this time, I would like to ask council if they would be willing to deviate from the agenda for 2 items. One, Councillor Cable is on his way here. So I would like to move the first public meeting until he arrives, which should be very soon. And the second one is to allow for the announcement and presentation of Senior of the Year, which we will do after the public meetings and before the delegations. But I do, because of our procedure by law, I need a mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Dickert and Councillor Hawking, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So we're going to start with the second public meeting, which is item 6.2. And this is a public meeting under the Planning Act to consider bylaw amendment number 3270-23, file number Z223 for Paul and Diane Wilkin. And I will ask the clerk for the method of notice of the meeting and the dates of that notice.
Notice of the public meeting was advertised in the Post and mailed to all commenting agencies on May 29th, 2023, in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act, 1990. Comments were received from Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority in Grey County Planning Department.
Thank you. Andrew?
Your worship, I do have to declare pecuniary interest on this item, so I will remove myself.
Thank you. Tanya can fix this. Okay, so I will ask Sandeep Kaur, our planning and administrative coordinator, to give an overview of the amendment application. Sandeep?
Thank you. So this is the public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment number 327023, file number Z223, Wilkin, Paul and Diane. On May 17, 2023, Paul Wilkin attended the town office inquiring about a proposal to convert the existing single-family detached dwelling to a semi-detached dwelling at 642 14th Avenue. On May 18, 2023, Mr. Wilkin submitted an application to amend the zoning of lands described as part of Lot 22, Registered Plan 750 in the town of Hanover in the county of Bray. Notice of the public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment number Z223 was circulated to all applicable agencies and persons on May 29, 2023, as required by Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990. Circulation of the notice of public meeting included abutting property owners within 120 meters of the subject lands and was also posted on the subject lands. The zoning bylaw amendment proposes to rezone the subject land residential type 1, R1 zone to residential type 3, R3 zone to allow the construction of a semi-detached dwelling. At their June 13, 2023 meeting, the Planning Advisory Committee reviewed the zoning bylaw amendment application and recommended that zoning bylaw amendment number Z223 proceed to public meeting. This application is in keeping with the provincial policy statement for residential intensification to permit and facilitate a range of housing options. At the time of writing this report, comments from County of Gray Planning and Development Department, Hanover Public Works, and Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority have been received relating to this application and are attached. The Gray County has expressed no concerns and said that the proposed development would create growth and add to the range of residential uses, as it would add an additional unit and rezone the property for a semi-detached dwelling. The proposed development would slightly intensify the lot, as it would increase the number of dwellings from 1 residential dwelling to 2 residential dwellings. It is compatible with the surrounding land uses, as the number of floors is similar to the other nearby buildings. The proposed use is also compatible with other residential buildings nearby. Therefore, the county planning staff have no concerns. The Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority in its comments has said that the proposed application is considered acceptable by SVCA staff. Given the above comments, it is the opinion of the SVCA staff that consistency with Section 3.1 natural hazard policies of the provincial policy statement has been demonstrated. Consistency with the local planning policies for natural hazards has been demonstrated. The Public Works Department has also expressed no concerns and has said that the property is provided with a 100 mm diameter sanitary service from 14th Street and a 19 mm diameter water services from 10th Avenue. The additional water and sanitary servicing for the proposed semi-detached dwelling, alterations to driveway entrance or other alterations to the current municipal infrastructure would be at the expense of the proponent. There are no financial implications to the town associated with this report, and this report supports the economic development and community indicated strategic directions and goals of town of Hanover. So that report, PB 1623, public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment number 327023, file number Z223, Wilkin, Paul and Diane, be received. And that council passed by law 3270/23 to rezone the land described as part of lot 22, registered plan 750 and known as 642 10th Avenue in the town of Hanover in the county of Bray from residential type 1 R1 zone to residential type 3 R3 zone.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Thank you.
So as this is a public meeting, members of the public will now be allowed to speak to the matter, and all questions are to be addressed through the chair. So if there was anyone wishing to speak, please state your name and address for the record. And I will ask a second time if there's anyone wishing to speak. And the third time. So the floor is now closed and discussion or debate is limited to council and staff. So now that we have the report on the floor before council, I need a mover and seconder for PB 1623, Councillor Sackle and Councillor Fleet. So comments or questions regarding this application? Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just speak in support of it. I think anytime we can intensify our use of the land we have in town, I think is a good thing. So I certainly support this application. Thank you.
I agree. Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wondering, Sandeep, if you could clarify on some of the documents, it talks about converting a single family detached dwelling to semi-detached, and then in some documents, it talks about constructing a semi-detached dwelling. So is the intent of this, of the applicant, that they're going to completely demolish the existing home?
So they have applied for the demolition permit and they are in the process of demolishing it, and they are constructing a new semi-detached building there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask the question. All in favor of PB 1623? That is carried. Thanks, Sandeep.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll wait for Andrew just to come in and we'll move on to the second public meeting. Welcome, Councillor Cable. I know you were rushing to get here, so. I know, but I in person, when you're asking questions and receiving answers, I just wanted you to be here when we're discussing, so. So we have the first public meeting, 6.1. This is a public meeting under the Planning Act to consider zoning bylaw amendment number 3269-23. This is file number Z21-23. It's the housekeeping amendment. And I will ask the clerk for the method of notice of the meeting and the dates of that notice.
Notice of the public meeting was advertised in the Post and mailed to all commenting agencies on May 29th, 2023, in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act, 1990. Comments were received from Grey County Planning Department, Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, and Director of Public Works, Ron Cooper.
Thank you. And I'll ask Andrew Wilkin, our Director of Building and Planning and CBO, to give an overview of the amendment. Andrew?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, this is a public meeting to alter the definition of boarding house and relative mapping. It's also an update for legislative requirements that we've been talking about in the past for comprehensive zoning bylaw with relation to Bill 23 requirements, as well as cleaning up some wording versus secondary additional units or secondary units versus additional dwelling units. We found ourselves calling it multiple different things within the bylaws, so we wanted to clean that up and just refer to it as additional dwelling units. As well as this touches on the fire hall property in our business park or our industrial park from an M1 to an institutional zone. So prior to me going through this list, I'll go through item by item. I would maybe provide an overview of the comments from the county. I wasn't going to read it totally word for word. If you go to page 8 of your package. The county would briefly summarize the comments as follows: that they have no concerns with the proposed changes to boarding house regulations, that the town may wish to consider previous recommendations they do make in the report around additional dwelling units. County staff recommend that the town's official plan policies be updated to reflect these proposed changes that will be in the bylaw. We have had some discussion for a little while about a local official plan amendment that the town is going to require, that we're working towards. And in reviewing the town's zoning bylaw concurrently with the official plan, county staff would suggest that rezoning of the property locally known as 680 First Street from restricted industrial to institutional to permit a municipal fire hall may not be required or desirable for the subject property. What they talk about is it's a public use building. Technically, the requirements wouldn't need that zone property to change. It would perhaps be required to change if we couldn't meet a setback or a requirement of the industrial zone. In our case, we do meet those requirements. So the county just provides an option there that it matter of factly may not be required. Saugeen Valley's comments that were received on June the 12th that were in your package, page 10 of 148. Just in summary, SVCA staff find the application acceptable. It is the opinion of staff that the application is consistent with the natural hazard policies of the PPS. Additionally, the proposed amendments are not subject to Ontario Regulation 169-06 or to the policies of SVCA at this time. And they would be like to be apprised of any decision that's made here tonight. So with that, your worship, I think I will work through the amendment, housekeeping amendment, line by line. This would be attached on page 80 of your package within the bylaw itself. I have a brief justification on these items in my report, but I'm going to read directly off the bylaw for this update. Item 1, this is an update to the definition of boarding and lodging. Previously, at our most recent zoning bylaw amendment for housekeeping last fall, September 19th, I believe, council wished for this type of use to be capped at 10. If you recall, at the time, we capped group homes at 10 at that time. This is simply to pick up that capping number at 10 as directed by council. Additionally to item 1, and I will speak to it a little further when I get there, is not permitting the use of boarding and lodging in a certain area of our C1 zone, which when I get to that item, I'll explain the mapping a little bit better on that item. Items 2, 3, and 4 all touch on additional dwelling units. It just clarifies that there will be some secondary municipal addressing put in place. It also is bolded additional. Sometimes this was secondary, noted as secondary in our zoning bylaw. So for clarification, that's what items 2 through 4 are. Item 5 is a clearance requirement that Hanover Fire Department asked us to put in for use and maintenance around fire hydrants. This item was added at their request. Items 6, 7, 8, and 9 is again just clarifying the additional versus the secondary. And as Bill 23 outlined, that these types of units are to be allowed in our R1 through R4 zones. So just ensuring that those were picked up to meet the legislative requirements. Okay, item 10 notes that section 14.2B bracket 2 is hereby deleted and replaced with the following group home. Prior to this, it was group home and boarding or lodging house in our comprehensive zoning bylaw amendment. What we decided to do, it was just easier to remove both and allow for group home only. And as you move down to item 17, we did a site-specific zone, C1-44, which essentially allows for rooming and boarding and group home to be allowed in all C1 zones with the exception of a C1-44 zone. And in your mapping on page 84, you can see the two zones that we're speaking of. So as council's direction last September was to not permit boarding and lodging homes on 10th Street between 11th Ave and 7th Ave. Properties facing 10th Street was to be omitted, not to allow for rooming or boarding and lodging homes. What it does is everywhere else in the C1 zone, it is allowed a permitted use as the zoning bylaw has always allowed for. It was just taken out of this section per council's direction at that time. Items 11 through 14 reference Schedule A1. This is specific to the fire hall. Again, the county provided comments. No problem saying when good comments are received that they make sense, and the county provides maybe a concise direction on that property. The fact that it is already permitted, potentially what could that property, if it was converted to an institutional use now, would always be an institutional use, and in future, for let's say whatever reason the fire hall wasn't there, it might not make sense to be an institutional use down the road. With their recommendation or their comment for consideration makes sense in that it would remain an M1 use just like everything around it, as well as allowing for the building to proceed as per most recent reports. Item 15 just really talks about, it's really just mapping updates because of how we had to remove a section as C144 as opposed to the entire area being C1. It was either do it this way or it was to create a new zone altogether, C9 or C10, and show that that different area of permitted uses on 10th Street itself. So decided to back it out and do it this way as opposed to just creating a new zone altogether. So item 15 and 16, 17, 18, and 19 all make reference to Schedule A2, which is the mapping that you see in front of you on page 84. So with that, there are no financial implications to the town associated with this report. The link to the strategic plan is economic development and community. The recommendation is that report PB 15-23 public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment file number Z1-23 housekeeping be received, and that council pass bylaw 3269-23 to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 2912-15 as presented. And I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Members of the public will now be allowed to speak to the matter. All questions are to be addressed through the chair. If anyone wishes to speak, please state your name and address for the record. And I will ask a second time if there's any members of the public that would like to speak to this. And third and final time. So the floor is now closed, and discussion or debate is limited to council and staff. So at this time, I'll take a mover and seconder for report PB 1523 to put it on the floor. Councillor Hudson and Councillor Sack. Okay, comments, questions? Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you for the report, Andrew. Just wondering, so under it's number 10 in your list on page 81, So it talks about how we're removing boarding and lodging houses as a permitted use, but we're still going to allow group homes in the C1-44 zone. I'm just wondering what the thought is around maintaining group homes in that area, seeing as last fall, council agreed to change the definition of a group home to, in my opinion, be very similar to a boarding or lodging house, with the exception that people living in a group home have to be workers, where people in boarding and lodging just have to be persons.
You're asked through your worship, you're asking me the justification of why that occurred.
Like, I'm just wondering why we would keep group home in that zone and not remove it as well.
Through your worship, I would say, boarding and lodging in a group home aren't the same. There's obviously been quite a bit of discussion within council and councils about, what is the difference? I think we spoke long and hard last fall at our last housekeeping amendment around the group home definition. And at that time, it was council's direction to remove the boarding and lodging portion only and not group home. That's what I would recall from council's direction. And that's, how essentially we've kind of got to this point with this update.
Thank you, worship. Andrew, are there any existing group homes in the C144 zone?
Through your worship, yes. Hark has a group home in the C1 zone just down on 11th Ave. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure if there would be other ones, but that would be a group home in our C1 zone. Might be the only one.
But that wouldn't be in the C144 zone.
Just let me be sure, but yes, it would. So the C144 is lands that allow for both the boarding, lodging, and group. And yes, that would fall in the C144. C1 zone, the mapping would be consistent of the downtown, not allowing the group home portion within that 10th Street section. Everything outside of that would be the C144 that would allow it in the blue. For your worship, to further that, if you go to, I don't know how clear the sketch is, page 84 of 148, that map, the hatched area, the dark blue, the hatched area would allow for lodging and group home, and that clear space, that same blue marker down our downtown would only allow for group home. That would be our C1, and our C144 would be the hatched area.
Okay, I think my only hesitation around this is just that, based again on the definition of a group home, like I see that Hark to me is a group home, and I completely understand the definition. It's section C of the definition of a group home that I personally, and I expressed this last fall, I don't agree with council adding that definition of workers as a group home. And I think my concern is that ultimately somebody could construct a group home in the downtown C144 zone, which would not be any different from a boarding lodging house.
Sorry, through your worship, were you looking for a response, or were you just expressing your?
No, that's just
Okay.
my thought on why I would prefer not to have group home listed in C144, but I see then that the mapping would have to change as to what was hatched and what was not.
Right. Through your worship, yeah, I would say, to echo Councillor Cable's comments, there was great discussion around that topic in the fall, and ultimately council passed the definition in group home. I think that's what I would say on that item.
And I would echo what Andrew has said here. Again, there was good conversation and Councillor Cable, you've noted that you don't necessarily agree with that definition. And you're certainly entitled to that. But it was a council direction at that time to move forward with that definition. And we have as such included that in the comprehensive zoning bylaw that was updated last September.
Andrew?
And just in addition to that, to be clear, the definition of group home is not changing here tonight. Just the boarding and lodging definition change to incorporate the cap of 10 as well as the mapping. So the group home definition has not changed since last fall.
All right, any other comments or questions? Councillor Cable, you may have other questions after. Okay, Councillor Fleet?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Andrew, for your report. The mapping revisions 5th to 13th Avenue, on a personal basis, I'd like to see that extended right to 24th. I'd like to see the whole main street, if you want to call it right to 24th, changed, that there's no group homes or any type of that type of home on our main street, period.
Through your worship, if that's council's direction, I can only say at the time that the September report came forth, there was only discussion regarding 7th Ave to 11th Ave in the C1 portion. If that wants to extend to C2 and C3 along the corridor, it's not that it can't be done. It would just be a subsequent revision and then another housekeeping amendment.
And I'll just, again, just to refresh council's memory, if you need a refresher, is that this conversation was an outcome of a CAO report that came forward from the Airden Bearless delegation in June 2022. And they made a very specific, they made some recommendations around boarding and lodging houses. And so that report came forward on September 19th. And again, the direction, I brought my notes from that meeting, I'll be really honest. Now, where'd I put them? And specifically, as Andrew has mentioned, the notes were, so the direction at that time was to include a maximum of 10 and capture the intent of the owner or family, which has been done in this housekeeping update, as well as the exception being, it was at that time, it was 7th or 8th Avenue to 11th Avenue. So that's been captured with that 7th to 11th.
Andrew?
And through your worship, sorry, Councillor Fleet, I was caught off guard by the question a little bit. There's C2 and C3 zones don't allow for a group home currently. So there's no need to amend our bylaw for that unless you actually wanted them added in.
Just a personal feeling that I'd like to see it extended right to 24th, that we have no issues at all. Thank you.
Through your worship, that's essentially what's in place now with this amendment in front of us. C1, C2, C3, none of it. Down 10th would allow for lodging or group home is only allowed in our C1 and not in our C2 and C3 currently.
So what we are doing here is capping to get that 10, that limit for boarding and lodging, and adding 7th to 11th Avenue. And like Andrew just said, you cannot have a group home in C2, which is from, is it 11th Avenue East or somewhere along there?
Yeah, it's somewhere along there.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to give the wrong information,
Right.
but it would switch to a C3 the further east you get,
Right.
which also does not allow.
And then there's corridor commercial and it just keeps getting larger all the way. So other comments or questions? Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. Andrew, can we just clarify what the direction will be around the fire hall property based on the county's comments?
Through your worship, yeah, like I said, the county presents a pretty clear path, I think. I would think a proper approach would be to remove the components that are related to the fire hall redesignation property, and we'll proceed it as a public use. Our current design meets all the requirements of the N1 for setbacks and heights. So, based on that, I don't see the requirement to change that, redesignate that property to an institutional zone. And in future, I think it would just be best that it stays the M1 as it currently is. That would affect items, I believe, 11 through 14. Any mention to Schedule A1 really talks about the fire hall itself.
So, and I'll check with the clerk, but I think as we have a motion on the floor for this report, we'll need an amendment to remove that, vote on the amendment, and then vote on the main motion.
That is correct, Mayor Patterson.
Other comments or questions? Everybody's comfortable? You understand what we're doing here? I'm getting nodding heads. So Councillor Cable, you're okay with your opinions, I guess? All right. Okay, so if you're in agreement, we'll take a mover and seconder to amend this report, which is removing items 11 to 14 along with Schedule A1, which is the fire hall. So I have the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Hawking. So I will call the question on the amendment. All in favor of that removal? That is carried. Thank you. So now the main motion with the amendment attached to it. I have Councillor Hudson and Councillor Sacco, and you're okay with the amendment. All in favor? And that is carried. I can say opposed. Councillor Cable. Thank you. That report carries along with the amendment. So thanks, Andrew and Sandeep in the planning department. Okay, so moving on with the agenda, this is where we are going to have the announcement and presentation for the special award for Senior of the Year. Each year, the Minister for Seniors and Accessibility invites municipalities to submit a nomination for Senior of the Year award. This award recognizes an outstanding senior who, after age 65, enriches the social, cultural, or civic life of the community. Unfortunately, our award recipient is not able to join us this afternoon. I am honored to recognize Anne Hahn as Hanover's Senior of the Year. Volunteers make a significant contribution in our community, and it's nice to be able to show our appreciation. Anne has generously given her time, knowledge, and expertise to make our community better. Anne was nominated by Councillor Susan Sacco, so I'm going to ask her to share some of the valuable contributions she makes in our community. Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, Your Worship. Anne Hahn is a wife to Ed Hahn, a mother to 3 daughters, and a grandmother to 9 grandchildren. Despite the fact that they live out of town, Anne does her best to celebrate all of the special occasions in their lives, whether it's attending birthday parties or cheering at baseball games. Anne is probably best known for her extensive teaching career. She started her career in Mount Forest, but then spent time at James A. McGee and finally at Hanover Heights, when she retired after 23 years in education. It goes without saying that she has surely touched the lives of many local students. After retirement, Anne decided she wanted to help children in third world countries. She heard about Operation Christmas Child, which is part of a larger organization known as Samaritan's Purse. And in 2012, her not-for-profit organization was born here in Hanover. Under Anne's guidance as a logistics coordinator, the team has grown over the last 10 years. In 2022, the Hanover Drop-Off Center collected 5,601 gift-filled shoeboxes. Canadian shoeboxes were sent to Nicaragua, El Salvador, Costa Rica, and to many places in West Africa. Over the years, Anne has traveled as a local OCC Connect volunteer, helping to distribute shoebox gifts in Uruguay, Costa Rica, Senegal, and the Gambia. She has witnessed firsthand the joy of seeing children open shoeboxes filled with wonderful surprises. She has also worked on a construction project, at a food bank, and other important volunteer jobs in Quito, Ecuador. Just before COVID, Anne traveled to Iquitos, Peru, where she helped build a church and worked with children. Anne is also involved with activities at Holy Family Parish. In 2022, Anne served as a member of the St. Vincent de Paul Committee. She did weekly food deliveries as needed over the holidays. Anne has also worked with several evangelical outreach projects in the local area. Light on Main Street has been feeding those in need for many years at Grace United Church. Anne works as a dishwasher there when she can. Just last year, when Hanover suffered the devastating downtown fire, Anne helped to organize and feed victims who were now homeless. As you can see, Anne Hahn is an amazing person. Despite some health struggles, she never complains. She believes that helping others is what she is meant to do. And she does this each and every day with a smile on her face as she picks up donations, gives rides to friends, or drops in for a visit. Thank you, Anne, for being a wonderful senior in the town of Hanover. We need more people like you in our community. Congratulations on being selected as the town of Hanover's Senior of the Year.
Thank you, Councillor Sackle. It is a well-deserved award for Anne. And I would just like to say we have a framed certificate for Senior of the Year award for 2023, and it is signed by Raymond Cho. He is the Honorable Minister for Seniors and Accessibility. It is also signed by Her Honor, the Honorable Elizabeth Dowdeswell, who is the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. And I signed it too as mayor as the town of Hanover. So I just want to hold this up. So Anne and her family and friends will be able to see this. And I'm checking with Tanya that it is visible on Facebook. I hope so. Yes. So they will be able to listen and watch this recording, and we will make sure Anne receives this certificate. So well deserved. Thank you. Okay, continuing on with our agenda. Item 7 is delegations. We do not have any this afternoon. Item 8, business arising from the minutes. We do not have any. Item 9, council and committee of the whole minutes. 9.1 was our regular council meeting minutes from May 15th. And I need a mover and seconder to accept those minutes. Councillor Cable and Councillor Fleet. And if there are any questions with these next 3 sets of minutes, please let me know. All in favor of approving those minutes from May 15th? That's carried. Item 9.2 is committee of the whole minutes, and these are from June the 5th. And I need a mover and seconder for those, the deputy mayor and Councillor Hudson. And if there's questions or comments, please let me know. If not, all in favor? That is carried. Item 9.3 is the special council meeting minutes from May 30th. This was our first session for our corporate strategic plan, and I need a mover and seconder to accept those. Councillor Cable and Councillor Sackle. All in favor of those minutes? That's carried. Thank you. Item 10 is staff reports. And the first one, 10.1, is report PW 14-23. The subject is the 2023 road resurfacing tender. It is from Mr. Cooper, our Director of Public Works, and I need a mover and seconder to put that one on the floor. Councillor Hocking and Councillor Fleet. Ron, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Worship. What you have before us here tonight is the results of road resurfacing tender, which was put out. This is done on an annual basis, and it's taken into consideration a review of our roads to determine the priorities on an annual basis, which approximately 13 kilometers of Hanover's 45 kilometers of road network is constructed with surface treatment. These are typically wider roads without curb and gutter or sidewalks. Based upon industry standards, these roads require resurfacing on an 8 to 10 year life cycle based upon base stability, soil condition, and road usage. Our experience with microservicing is that for low volume roads with a stable base, we have been able to extend the life of these roads between 15 to 20 years. And a number of these sections that are coming up, it's been that time frame since they previously been resurfaced. The annual review of the roads was done. There is an attached map. It's on page 35, which shows 5 sections in which we're looking at doing the resurfacing work for this year. Number 1 is 17th Avenue from 11th to 14th Street. Second section is 13th Street from 16th to 17th Street. It's in that same area. Area number 3 is 7th Street east of 8th Avenue. Down in the southerly part again, 10th Avenue south of 5th Street, going southerly from there, and a smaller connecting street, 8th Street between 10th and 11th Avenue. The tenders were put together and issued to 2 firms which meet the specifications for this type of work, being Duncor Enterprises and Miller Paving Limited, which was formerly MSO Construction. As of the tender closing date and time of Monday, June 12th at 2 p.m., we received 2 tenders in from Duncor and Miller Paving Limited. The low bidder on this tender was Duncor Enterprises, which have completed similar work for the town since 2012. Have done a follow-up discussion with Duncor, which they have indicated they will be able to complete this work mid-August. This is typically going to be a 1 to 2 day period of work for them. Prior to commencing, the contractor would distribute notice with respect to parking on the roadway during the application of this product. Financial implications are that the quote from Duncor Enterprises of $60,138 is within the budget allocation of $77,000. The unit price which they have quoted is $5.14 per square meter, which is not increased from 2022. So that's great news. If I go back a year ago, we had seen a 20% increase in the cost of doing this work. So we had projected some potential cost increases coming forward this year, but they're holding their price. Linked to strategic plan is sustainable municipal operations. And the recommendation is the report PW 14-23, the 2023 road resurfacing tender be received, and that council accept the tender by Duncor Enterprises, Inc. for the 2003 supply and application of micro road resurfacing for a cost of $60,138 plus HST. If council would have any further questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Ron. Any comments or questions? This will be good to see this done. So, okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of report PW 14-23. That's carried. Item 10.2 is report HR 0323. The subject is the 2023 group benefits renewal. It's from Melissa Helgendorf, our HR manager, and I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Councillor Sacco and Deputy Mayor. Okay, Melissa.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick check to be sure you can hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. So I'm pleased to present to Council our 2023 group benefits renewal, which starts on page 36 in today's agenda package. As part of our 7th renewal with Canada Life as our benefit plan provider, they have evaluated the adequacy of our monthly benefit premiums in relation to the claims paid by the program, as well as the expenses to administer the program. To set rates for extended health and dental benefits, Canada Life analyzes the previous year premiums and claims and makes adjustments for factors such as inflation, utilization trends, and claims that have been incurred but not yet reported through the plan. For group life insurance and long-term disability, those benefits are insured and pooled. Rates are then set based on a blend of the carrier's manual rates, interest rate assumptions, and our own group's demographics, as well as amount of coverage. Compared to the prior period, paramedical claims, which are claims such as chiropractor, massage, such as that, they have increased by 2.9%, and dental claims have increased by 58%. This is largely due to some oral surgery claims, as well as increases to dental fees overall. Claim levels are now more aligned with those that were previously reported in, say, 2018 and 2019 prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. Inflation has also driven increases, as has some changes in the demographic makeup of our plan members. Chiropractic, massage, and physiotherapy were the top 3 paramedical services used in the current experience period, and the top medications claimed through the plan provide care for cancer, arthritis, and diabetes. For financial implications, Canada Life originally proposed an increase of 16.8% for our July 2023 renewal. However, our brokers from People Corporation have negotiated this down to 7.2%. This is a favorable increase compared to the 2022 amount of 17.3%, and is also a lot better than the 12 to 15% minimum that most other organizations are seeing this year. The negotiated 7.2% increase represents about $28,509.42 over a 12-month period. However, because this renewal occurs halfway into the year, the increase becomes $14,254.71 for 2023. This amount will be further offset by the 2% increase to benefits that was already included within the 2023 budget, as well as savings attained through attrition and changes in our staff demographics with respect to pension and benefits. The town was protected from a higher potential increase to premiums through pooling provisions for health claims. Under this provision, over $71,000 was removed from our claims usage and therefore does not impact our renewal rate. A final reconciliation for the 2022-2023 experience period under our refund accounting program did not provide a surplus this year. However, after fully funding a fluctuation reserve, a balance of $27,401.95 remains in the town's refund deposit account. So these are funds that are the property of the town and can be used as we deem appropriate. At this time, administration is recommending that we leave the town funds in that refund deposit account as a reserve to use for health and wellness initiatives and or to offset future increases that may have a bigger budget implication. Just for example, I know that our next renewal may be seeing increase in dental just based on a 6% fee guide increase alone. So although we are experiencing an increase at this renewal, the overall impact to the amount budgeted for salaries and benefits in 2023 will be minimal and will very likely be offset by other changes within the salary and benefits line overall. A summary of the rate cost for the Canada Life benefits for the current and previous experience periods has been included in the agenda package on page 37. The town's accidental death and dismemberment plan through AIG Canada currently remains unchanged and has been the same since 2016. It represents a cost of approximately $158 a month plus tax. Overall, the cost for benefits does continue to be a significant expense. However, the health and well-being of our staff remains extremely important, and our pooling and refund accounting provisions built into our plan help provide some financial safeguards. This supports strategic direction number 4, sustainable municipal operations. And the recommendation is that report HR 0323 group benefits renewal be received, and that council accept the 2023 benefits proposal from People's Corporation for group benefits with Canada Life at a cost of approximately $369,482.08, including PST, and that council approve keeping the available surplus funds in the refund deposit account. I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Thanks, Melissa. Council, any comments or questions? Councillor Hudson and Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm wondering, Melissa, if you can just enlighten me as to percentages that are covered for the staff. For example, dental, is it 50, 75, 100% coverage, as well as I think you mentioned chiropractic, massage, and physio also is one of your higher categories. If you can tell me percentages of those as well.
Of course. So at present, benefits for dental, there is a one-time per year deductible based on whether you have family or single coverage. And beyond that, you have 100% coverage for like minor restorative and some major restorative services. So it kind of depends on what service is being provided. For massage and chiropractic, I believe at the moment it is up to $500 per calendar year for both the staff member, and then a separate $500 for dependents. And a wealth of other coverages have that similar value. They may vary slightly by $100 here or there.
No.
Very good. Thanks, Melissa.
Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you very much, Melissa, for the report, and thanks for negotiating from that initial amount and getting it back down to something that's a little bit more in line with our budget. Just wondering, and perhaps this is a question for Sherry, but wondering if moving into the 2024 budget, if we should consider budgeting a higher amount for the increase for benefits beyond the 2%.
If I can, through you, Your Worship, we have discussed this with Chris Walker, who's not with us tonight. However, she's provided direction for initial budget planning that we will be including a larger budget amount, just looking ahead and seeing what may be coming down the pipe for financials with respect to benefits.
Excellent. Thank you.
Other comments or questions? So Melissa, I'm wondering, I know you mentioned in the report that the changes there's demographic makeup of our plan members. Has COVID had an effect that people were not able to go to their dentist during the pandemic? Would that be an effect from the pandemic?
Yes, we did start to see last renewal where there was a somewhat of a return to normal happening. So that trend has continued where people have been using those services a bit more. There were some oral surgeries included in this claims experience period, which did bump up those costs. And then going forward, just what the overall demographics of our group has changed as we have seen some maybe more senior staff leave and some younger staff come on. That does have an impact on our rates and, you know, whether they may have family coverage or single coverage as well.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other hands. I'll call the question. All in favor of HR 0323. That is carried. Thanks, Melissa. Item 10.3 is report PRC 0723. The subject is the ice resurfacer request for proposal. It's from Laura Kristen, our Director of Parks, Recreation and Culture. I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Councillor Cable and Councillor Hawking. Laura.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before you tonight is the results of an RFP for the supply and delivery of a new ice resurfacer for the PNH Center. So the current ice resurfacer is a 2010. It is past its normal life service, which is typically about 8 to 10 years. And it is a very important component of the ice maintenance and for the PNH Center. On May the 26th, a request for proposal was posted on the town's website, as well as Bidingo, and was also sent to 2 known manufacturers. Our RFP was a little unique because we did ask for suppliers to submit a bid for either a propane model or an electric model or both. So the results came back and, certainly after we did a review of the bids and the benefits of that electric resurfacer, staff is recommending a typical gas-powered model for the P&H Center. There are certainly some benefits, including reduced emissions, reduced fuel costs, but the upfront costs and potential maintenance issues, including the replacement of batteries, outweighed these advantages for our application. Additionally, gas-powered models have a proven track record of reliability and performance, which is crucial for our busy rink. We also considered the availability of service and parts for the gas-powered model, which is more accessible and reliable than our electric model. And most practical, we felt, was the electric version or the propane version for our specific needs and circumstances. The low bidder is Resurface Corp at $89,990, as well as a trade-in value of $8,500. We've used this company in the past. We feel that the pricing is fair and equitable and within market rates. And we've been using the same company for decades, and the units have been very reliable. The company has been responsive to emergency repairs, as well as the unit is easily serviced locally. The financial implications: the replacement of the ice resurfacer has been approved in the 2023 capital budget, with $90,000 being allocated for this purchase. The proposal submitted is within the approved financial allocation, and with the trade-in, the cost will be $81,490 plus HST. The recommendation before you this evening is that this report PRC 0723 ice resurfacer request for proposal be received, and that the project be awarded to Resurface Corp for a total of $88,990 plus HST for a 2024 Olympia Millennium H propane powered ice resurfacer for the P&H Center. Any questions?
Thanks, Laura. Council, questions or comments? I think we're good to go.
Okay.
All in favor of report PRC 0723? That's carried. Okay, item 11 is committees of council minutes, and we have 7 sets of minutes and some subcommittee minutes. So the first one, first of all, I need a mover and seconder just to put these on the floor. Councillor Sacco and Councillor Cable. So the first one, 11.1, this is the Economic, Tourism and Culture Development Advisory Committee minutes from May 17th. Councillor Sacco. If you would highlight those, please. It's Economic, Tourism and Culture Development Advisory Committee minutes. Sherry, go ahead.
I was just gonna note, I think the joint health and safety.
That's what I'm looking at. That's why I'm throwing. What page am I looking at, Mayor? 50. All right.
So the joint health and safety committee minutes were ahead of, I know it's not wanting to turn on. Now it is. There we go. So the joint health and safety committee minutes were in the package ahead of that. So yeah, you want to go to page 50, Councillor Sacco.
And they're actually at the end of these minutes, so sorry.
Okay, sorry. Now I think we're on the same page. Thank you, Your Worship. So at this meeting on Wednesday, May the 17th, this was our first meeting where Steve White joined us as a new councillor. And we did an update on the Event Development Fund, where we approved some applications for the summer. And they're going to the Hanover Fair, the Plein Air Painting Festival, and the Fall Harvest Market. The Hanover Community Profile presentation took place. We've also had an opportunity to see that here at Council with April Marshall, and that was very interesting for the My Main Street program. The analytics and all the figures and who comes to Hanover was really interesting. We had some updates from HIP Apprentice with some events that are happening at Launchpad. For instance, we have Tools in the Trades Boot Camp being hosted on July the 13th. So we're all looking forward to that. We talked about Hanover Chamber of Commerce. Curtis Schmaltz shared the success of the Spring Awards. We talked about the DIA and the events that are happening coming up. They're trying to get a Hanover Seniors Day on Tuesday campaign going. So that's in the planning stages. There was a wellness day on May 27th for Wowza held at the airport. And let's see here. The strategic plan survey was talked about. Obviously, we're all working on that, trying to get residents to take part in that. And that's about it. Thank you.
Okay, lots happening. Did you want to highlight the next one, the Cultural Roundtable Subcommittee minutes along with the Heritage, if you so wish?
As you wish, Mayor Sue. I'm winging it, of course. I'm doing my best here. So I'm taking a look at, this is a very small committee as well. The Joint Cultural Roundtable meeting. April reviewed some of the availability for the fall. They want to have a big meeting with Wellington North and Minto. Secondly, there's a cultural exchange that they're working on for grant writing for not-for-profits and looking for some interest from some local groups for that. Culture Days is coming up on September the 23rd, and we're looking forward to that. Adding an event with activities at the Civic Center and the Community Hall. The idea of an exhibit was introduced and behind the scenes workshops with theater groups, so that looks interesting. As many of you know, Music in the Square has already begun. The 2023 lineup has been shared. I hope everyone can come out. Our next event will be on June 25th with Al Crawford. How can I miss you, Al? Sorry about that. So I hope that people will come out to the Heritage Square for that. I think I'll go to the Heritage Subcommittee minutes, Mayor Sue, as you wish. I like the idea of the mystery photo. I'd like to see that. Jason Ron presented a photo of an old barn on 12th Avenue south of Bob's Glass. And they talked about that was probably an outbuilding for the sawmill back in the day. There's been some conversation regarding that fallen soldier, and they've tracked down the information of William John Hopkins and sent that information back to Belgium, which is pretty fascinating. They're talking about building recognition signs for the Grey Rose Suites and Frankie's Well Wing buildings as potential locations. Stay tuned for a further update on that. I know I highlighted the quilt donation. If you haven't been to see it at the Hanover Hospital, you should. It's pretty fascinating to see all those names there that we all recognize from town. I also was interested in the self-guided cemetery tour that they talked about. There's a brochure that Al Morrow shared with everybody, and it would be really fascinating if we could do that. I think Al could be the narrator for that. And then some new business, some memorabilia from Norm's Restaurant has been submitted. So that's really wonderful that we have that now in the archives. And I think that's it, Mayor Sue.
Good job. All right, item 11.2, Hanover Walkerton Waste Management Committee minutes. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. The May 16th minute, we had a presentation from Jacob Hanlon of Food Cycle Science Corporation for a countertop waste processing machine. This is a system where the food waste is placed in a bucket, and in 4 to 8 hours, it can turn that organic waste into dry, odorless soil. There are about 40 municipalities across Canada that are currently taking part in the pilot proposal. Brockton Council has already had this presentation and have decided not to pursue it, but other Bruce County municipalities are, I believe, Kincardine and Saugeen Shores possibly are. There are questions with regards to what happens to these units once they've reached their life expectancy. Do they just then become part of our landfill challenge or what? And we're not 100% sure just what effect it will have on greenhouse gassing and things of that nature. There are some federal funds available for a pilot project. And we would need to further investigate if, and we do hope to have this company come and make a presentation to council in September, I believe, is what we're targeting right now. So there'll be more to learn at that time. We reviewed other options for handling garbage and organics. The automated cart collection for organics and waste. It's quite costly upfront. The small bins could cost us around $600,000 to get set up. If you go with the larger bins, it's about $850,000. Hand tip carts are less expensive, but still looking at $175,000 to $200,000 just for the organic bins. Operational costs are also significant. If we looked at the town of Blue Mountains as a reference, it costs them $680 per ton to collect organics and then another $185 to process it. So it is a very costly venture, but something we need to look at. And I know Director Cooper continues to gather information, and we will continue to discuss this and see what other savings as far as the life expectancy that we might gain with our landfill site and the environmental pluses of going to a system such as this. Just as a matter of note, there is a slight typo in the minutes where you'll see a comparison of households between Hanover and Walkerton. It actually says 21,000 households in Walkerton. It should be 2,100. So if anyone's reading that and wonders how big Walkerton got overnight, that's a typo. We reviewed the terms of reference for the landfill committee, and we also approved the proposal from Fisher Archaeological Consulting to proceed with the work. With that work as we continue to explore options for our leachate management. And we also approved the proposal from Envision Consultants to complete the environmental impact study, as well as the hydrological and geotechnical studies for the leachate handling options. We've approved our household hazardous waste day for Hanover, which will be October 21st. That's a Saturday. We reviewed the year-to-date budget, and there was no concerns there. And as far as landfill quantities, the report was deferred to the length of our meeting and the length of my report here. But there was some people who had to leave that meeting at a certain time, so we didn't get around to that. But we'll certainly be happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Are there any questions? Oh, yes, Councillor Hudson and then Councillor Sack.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wondering if you can tell me the hazardous waste day, it's been changed to out at the landfill site then, is it this time?
No, it will be at the works yard on 14th Ave.
Okay.
Same as it's been in past years.
Okay, and it's the Rotary Club helps to work on that with you as well?
I don't know if that's been established yet, but typically they have been the group that's helped us in the past, but I don't know if I'm wrong. Maybe you can let us know if that's been established yet or not. We're working through the details on that.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, Your Worship. Warren, now that you've given me the figures, I can see why people are hesitant to take on that program. Is that the reason that Brockton chose not to endorse the program?
I wouldn't want to say that was the reason. The program for the tabletop recyclers, based on the member that's on the committee, I think it was more of concern with what is happening to these units after the life expectancy. Are you just moving from one problem to another problem? I think that was likely the biggest challenge they had. And the company is working on some similar to electronics recycling for these units. So there may be an answer to that. It just wasn't 100% in place just yet, but that's, and if I believe it was Good Roads Conference, I sat through a presentation from that company as well. And there are a number of municipalities in Ontario that have moved to this, and the uptake on from the residents has been very high. But there are certainly some budget implications as well that we need to check out, and whether we qualify for the federal grants also is things that we need to investigate further. And as I said, I think Director Cooper is in the process of gathering that information, and I'm sure that the gentleman that does the presentation, he'll be well versed in that when he comes in September.
Okay. One more thing. my observation, I mean, I'm interested in that, but I didn't like the fact that you have to order a carbon filter every 3 to 4 months online. I just didn't think that was very practical for people in town.
And that actually was one of the other concerns Brockton had is, was this going to take up staff resources? Because you could buy them through the town or through the municipality, I should say, but was that going to take up additional resources and you know, who manages it and all of those things? So there are some glitches with it, but I think they're working on them and it's certainly something worth considering, but we need to get some more information before we would say yes.
Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, I'm still confused about the hazardous waste day. On page 60 of this, it's moved that the household hazardous waste event at the Hanover Walkerton landfill site be provided by Brendar Environmental on October 21st. So is it at the Hanover Walkerton landfill site? Or is it at the Works Department?
It's at the Works Department.
Okay, so this is in error of that, or?
I think the confusion likely arises is this committee is setting up and arranging for that household hazardous waste day. Brockton qualifies for a couple of different events through the year because Bruce County does it as well. So they're eligible. So I think it's just the way it's worded in the minutes, Councillor Hudson. But you can be assured it is at the Works Department on 14th Ave South, the same location it's been for several years. Ron, I don't know how many, but it's been there for a lot of years.
Okay, I realized it was there. I just thought maybe it's moved and we won't know where to go. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions? Oh, please go ahead.
Actually, it's questions on the report from Susan. I had a couple of questions on her reports that
Sure,
I think you missed my flagging. That's okay.
go ahead.
Let me just find the right page here, sorry. 52. Okay, so the first one was 10.2, the Employer One survey. I'm just wondering if that information we've had or if it is something that is available for anybody to look at.
I think April will answer that. April?
Thank you, through your worship. So the Employer One survey is conducted by the 4 County Labor Market Board, which is Huron, Perth, Grey and Bruce. So anyone can go to the 4 County Labor Market Board website and they can access all of their reports, which the Employer One is on. So we did share it through this committee for their information. Alternatively, I can send it out to you as well as an attachment in an email.
Thank you, April. And my second question was regarding the welcome package for new residents. I'm not familiar with what that is or what's included or.
Which is exactly my question, because I have some new neighbors in my neighborhood. And that's when I found out that apparently there's 3 places you can pick it up. So I should ask, does anybody know what's in the welcome package?
No idea.
April?
Thank you. Yes, so the welcome package is it's information for new residents and concerns to their household, how they can access blue boxes, where the town's located, some of our major initiatives, contacts for some of our community groups. We put our community profile in there. So it's a real collection of information just that we would think that would be pertinent to new households. The reason we don't have it widely available like electronically is because we do create a package out of it. So we put different brochures and pamphlets in there as well. So it's just based on the time, what we have available. And we also like to track. So we ask people to come in and collect them so that we can take their name and address. And then should we, or when we have an event that's targeted to newcomers or new residents, then we could reach out to them So it's just a bit of a tracking mechanism as well, because I know a lot of people ask, why isn't it online? And that's the only reason why we've opted to have it like tangible and come in and collect it.
So how would they know to come in and collect that? A new resident to town, how did they know that?
To be quite honest, I have to put more time and focus in promoting it. It's one of those things that it's when we have people coming in and asking, we're saying, oh, we have this available for you. But it is in my plans to be reaching out more closely to the real estate agents and those points of contact where they're directly involved with new residents and they can promote that.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Hawking.
I was just gonna, and April just mentioned, I have said this for well, as long as I've been on council. The real estate agent is the person who welcomes the new person to town. You know, they close, when the deal closes, it would be ideal for the real estate agent to have this package, because you move into town, you're not gonna come down here and pick up this package. So I would, again, emphasize that we need to work with the real estate agents so that they are the first contact with the new buyer coming into town and give them that package. Thank you.
Okay, duly noted. All right, we'll move on to 11.3. This is the Planning Advisory Committee minutes. Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Worship. Planning Advisory Committee met June 13th. I'll just go over some of the highlights. Number 7, zoning bylaw amendment number Z2-23, Diane and Paul Wilkin. The proposed dwelling is a 1-story with a floor area of 1,922 feet, resulting in a coverage of 28.35%. The owner is committed to provide on-site parking with a total of 6 parking spaces. These include 2 spaces at front along 10th Avenue and 4 spaces at the rear of the lot on 14th Street. Number 8, proposed site plan control agreement, just-in-time capital. This would be the cannabis building in our industrial park. It's no longer going to be a cannabis producing site. Andre explained to the committee that through recent leasing discussions, the potential tenants, there is a far greater interest in both service industry uses and fitness uses for the building. The building will be separated into 26 individual units, which could be leased individually or multi-unit leases. Currently, negotiations with an indoor child recreation facility is ongoing, with additional conversations with other subsequent tenants occurring. Andre confirmed that all purposes will comply with current M1 comprehensive zoning bylaw provisions that would not require a planning application to the facility uses. And that's all I have to report from planning. I take any questions.
Thank you. Are there questions? All right, we'll move on. 11.4. This is the new fire hall project team meeting minutes from May 17th. I'm wondering whether Councillor Cable or Councillor Fleet would like to highlight those, or I will ask our CAO. Sure, as in the CAO? Okay.
Guess that's being called voluntold, right? So this was our meeting when we met with Nelson Dolly, and he provided an update on the design and went over the information. And certainly Jeff, Chief Deniger, and Andrew have been involved with Nelson getting to this point. So there was some feedback from committee members in regards to design and some suggestions made at that time. But really it was about updating things around project timeline as well as project costs. Well, and as you recall, that update report came to council, I believe, at our June 5th meeting. So that is proceeding with the recommendation to proceed with the net zero as per the council report. And I would assume we will be seeing some information soon with that information being released.
Thanks, Sherry. I don't see any hands raised. 11.5 is the Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee minutes from May 24th. Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Worship. The Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee met on Wednesday, May the 24th. Danica Metcalf accepted the nomination to act as the committee's vice chairperson, so we're glad to have her assisting in that leadership role. We spent considerable time reviewing the Parks, Recreation and Culture Master Plan, and that document was finalized in 2018, I believe, and so it is kind of our guiding framework for the next several years. This review has been ongoing since January. We've been kind of chipping away at it as it's quite a comprehensive document as part of the onboarding for new committee members. And it was determined that going forward, staff will summarize the work that's been completed on the master plan items and report back to the advisory committee perhaps a couple of times a year. And that really our items around discussion around capital items moving forward would stem from the master plan objectives. As was noted in the minutes, we were waiting for an update from Plural regarding the splash pad report, which was supposed to come to council today, but unfortunately, Plural was not able to have that document ready for this meeting, and so it will be delayed and will not come to council until July. We've also been discussing a potential community sponsorship campaign for the P&H Center, and so the P&H Center is now over a decade old. And so the original naming terms are expiring or they have expired. And so in light of the upcoming splash pad fundraising effort, as well as fire hall sponsorship campaign, the advisory committee has made a recommendation that the P&H Center naming fundraising campaign be put on hold. And I think further, council may wish to consider a motion directing staff to develop a more comprehensive fundraising strategy across all of our departments, examining the needs of multiple departments in order to reduce the competition for dollars and the potential burden that we're placing on local donors and businesses by going out and fundraising for many projects in a short period of time. And so I think that's something that whether I bring it forward through notice of motion or however we want to approach that, but I think it would be nice if we could look at kind of a town-wide fundraising strategy for the next 5 years, looking at things from the Center of Excellence Park, the splash pad, the fire hall, whether we do the P&H Center, but how that's going to roll out, just that we're not tapping the same donors over and over again. I think that's a summary of our meeting, Your Worship.
Thank you for that. I'll ask our CEO the best way to approach that. Last comment.
So off the top of my head, I would like a little bit more time to think about that. A notice of motion may be a good opportunity to do that, but I would like to think about that a little bit more, Councillor Cable. If I can think of our past history with fundraising, and how we approach those projects, you know, I think of the time when we were fundraising for the pool and then the civic center, but the library at that time. And then again, the P&H Center, it seemed to work out that there was a pecking order, if I can call it that. And then those fundraising campaigns proceeded with council support and direction for those campaigns. However, as you've said, there are a number of projects that potentially will be coming forward. And I believe if it wasn't this budget meeting, it might have been the 2022 budget meeting. I spoke specifically in my role then as Director of Parks, Recreation and Culture about we need to be strategic about fundraising. And so your comment is well taken. And I wouldn't mind if I could think about that a little bit more, whether it needs to be a notice of motion or whether we as management team members can talk about that and see what that could be and bring some information back. And what defines a fundraising campaign, right? Definitely for things like Splash Pad, that would be a fundraising campaign. P&H Center naming opportunities is more around that sponsorship continuation as opposed to fundraising, but you're potentially going to the same people or businesses or organizations for dollars for different things. So that's a long-winded answer, but some background as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, 11.6 is the Age-Friendly Advisory Committee minutes. Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Worship. Age Friendly Advisory Committee met on May 15th. I'll just go over some of the highlights. Items for discussion, committee to bring forward recommendations for updates to be made to the business resource guide, update font color for readability, updates stats from 2016 census to 2021 census, image of international wheelchair accessibility symbol, opportunity to add information on removing an image and looking at adding to our webpage. Number 6, County, Becky Hillier presented Gray County Age-Friendly Strategic Action Plan. And 7.2, present ideas for new goals, committee shared input on goals and future project ideas were added to the document. And that's all I have to report on Age-Friendly. I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Councillor Fleet? Seeing none, we have one set of minutes left for this motion. And once we've highlighted those, I'd like to take a 10-minute break. We've been here sitting an hour and a half. We'll just take a quick break. So we'll go on with 11.7 Joint Health and Safety Committee minutes, and Melissa Hilgendorf will highlight those.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the Health and Safety Committee met on July 8th. Minutes of the previous meeting were accepted, as were site-specific minutes submitted by the fire department. The committee reviewed the status of monthly inspections and incident reports submitted, noting an increase in the number of reports involving staff interacting with potentially violent patrons. The committee felt de-escalation training for staff would be beneficial, and this is an item that is already being considered and investigated by staff. Under new business, the committee reviewed sign in and out procedures for staff, heard from Fire Chief Dendiger about traffic concerns when trucks are returning to the station, and set a goal to complete noise level readings across facilities in 2024. Heat stress and cold stress prevention standard operating guidelines were reviewed and updated, and the committee felt it best to schedule a separate meeting dedicated to reviewing our emergency procedures. We also discussed a number of other items, including air quality due to wildfires, naloxone kits in the workplace, working alone, encampment cleanups, and prescription safety eyewear. The 2023 budget and goals were reviewed, and all items are on track. I believe that's it. I'm happy to address any questions.
Thanks, Melissa. Any comments or questions? I will comment, Melissa, and maybe you've already thought of it, I'm sure. With the de-escalation, you may want to contact the county. I'm sure they are involved in de-escalation practices with some of their social services. So. All right, that is the last set of minutes, and it was all of those minutes and recommendations contained in those minutes and committees and boards minutes, was moved by Councillor Sackle and Councillor Cable. So all in favor of receiving those recommendations. That is carried. Thank you. So let's take a 10-minute break. So we'll be back here at 5:44. Let's do 5:45. Make it easy. Don't you love that? Okay, council,
Okay.
we'll call the meeting back to order. So continuing on with our agenda, we are on item 12, which is our bylaws. I need a mover and seconder to put those on the floor. We have the deputy mayor and Councillor Fleet. And I will ask the clerk for the intent of the bylaws.
Bylaw 3266-23 is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the May 15th, 2023 regular council meeting and the May 30th, 2023 special council meeting. Bylaw 3267-23 is a bylaw to appoint Andrew Wilkin as a municipal law enforcement officer. Bylaw 3268-23 is a bylaw to authorize entering into a water service agreement. Bylaw 3269-23 as amended is a zoning bylaw amendment, file number Z1-23. And bylaw 3270-23 is zoning bylaw amendment Z2-23.
Thanks, Vicky. So it's been moved by Deputy Mayor Dickert, seconded by Councillor Fleet, that bylaw numbers 3266-23 through to 3270-23 be introduced and that they be taken as read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and inserted in the bylaw book. Are there any further questions regarding the bylaws? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item 13 is correspondence requiring action, and we do not have any. Item 14 is reports and correspondence for information. And the first one, 14.1, is report ED 04-23. The subject is the Launchpad 2023 operating budget. And April Marshall, our economic development manager, will present the report. April.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is a staff report, but I'm here representing the Launchpad Board of Directors this evening to share our 2023 operating budget. And as a background, just to remind everyone about the discussion we had back in March through an ED 0223 Launchpad report, the board of directors was asking for some town support through this transition year so that we can really take a look at the organization, the operations, and take this time to really plan for a sustainable future. So with that, we have created the budget that is included in your package. And I won't go into it in detail, but I just wanted to high level share some points, and that being of the work that we have put into it as staff and a board. You can see that the budget has been significantly decreased for our operating revenue, and we've also ensured that we put realistic revenues in, to offset by those expenses, so that and really taking a look at what we are delivering. So we have pulled back on a lot of things, but we're also putting a higher emphasis on others where we see some revenue generation as quick wins for us. That being really promoting the space and people renting it and using it and speaking to all of our stakeholders in the community and building those partnerships and being able to really have it as a hub for activity for youth and adults moving forward. So an example of that, and we had mentioned a little bit earlier, is through our HIP Apprentice campaign. On July 13th, we're excited to be delivering a Tools in the Trades boot camp. So that's with the Ontario or OYAP through the school board. They're partnering with us, as well as the Tools in the Trades boot camp. It's going to be on motive power and transportation. And at lunchtime, we're going to have Support Ontario Youth, or SOY as they call it, for an employer lunch. So any employers that have apprenticeship opportunities, we're inviting them to attend the lunch and learn more about how Support Ontario Youth can help them through this apprenticeship journey. So we encourage people to sign up for that, as everything is free. So they can visit our hipapprentice.ca website for links to that. This Friday, the board is coming together through our offer through Grey County to have a facilitated strategic session. So we're really looking forward to that. And we'll be able to bring some more information back in the fall as far as what those findings are on how we see our best direction moving forward. The financial implications are the $100,000 contribution that the town of Hanover annually makes to Launchpad to assist with the operations, which is included in the economic development budget. And we just want to reassure that we take this this financial I guess, investment that the town is making into Launchpad very seriously. And as a board, we're working very, very hard to streamline operations and find our sustainable future. So if this does link to economic development, community and sustainable municipal operations in our strategic plan. And the recommendation is that report ED 0423 Launchpad 2023 operating budget be received for information. And I know that Councillor Cable and Sackle, who are also representation on the Launchpad board, I'm sure would be able to assist with any questions that anyone may have or any areas of clarification. And I know Chris is also on the line because she's been assisting a lot as well with us getting our operating budget in line here.
Thanks, April. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Hawking.
I just looking at the. Pardon me, my apologies. So I'm looking at the operating budget versus the prior year on page 88. And in 2022, you had miscellaneous revenue of 103,000. Well, almost $104,000. And 2023, I don't see anything. Is there a reason for that? Or am I not reading it right?
Oh, Chris would like to speak. Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
I do have this pulled up, but I'll let Chris go first here.
Chris, you're on the call. You go ahead.
Hi there. That would be, we had almost 96,000 of the town's money that was transferred there to get them out of debt. And it would be a loan for the future. So most of that's what the 103,000 is. And the rest was just miscellaneous revenue that we had no other location to put it.
Okay,
So most of that is from the town.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I'm not sure, I just, when it says across the top, I'm on page, wherever that chart is, page 90 of 148. And it says there that it's council approved. Did the council actually approve these budgets in the past? I know we approved the $100,000, but this is, to me, it's misleading because I don't recall seeing this budget and approving it as a council in the past. Did we?
Through your worship, I'll let Chris elaborate on this, but it's because it's through the FMW software program that we're constructing the budget. So those are the tags, correct, Chris, that are automatically kind of put on the budget?
That is correct. What council approved was $100,000. And the Launchpad usually comes to council and presents their budget to let them know how they're realizing a lot of that investment. But April is correct. It's because we have to put it through in our FMW and there's different levels that we have to put it through. And this is the last level for the council approved. So yes, you didn't approve their budget. They approved their budget. And in a roundabout way, it's the Launchpad board has approved the budget and council approved the 100,000.
Okay.
I'd like to say I understand that now, but I don't.
It's because.
Through you, your worship,
Yes,
if I could.
go ahead.
When we do a budget through our software, it starts off as a department submission, then the finance takes a look at it. Then it becomes a senior management, then it goes to council for the review. And then once council approves it, this is the final is finalized. Because council has finalized the 100,000 from EDC And the Launchpad board has already approved their budget. That's why it shows up now as a 5, a council approved. That's the only levels that we have within our budget software.
Is there any way, Chris, that we can change that in future so it doesn't say council approved or?
Yes, I could put it through as a level 4 council review.
Or does it have to have a title at all?
I can remove the title so that when it comes to you, you don't see it.
Right. That would make it easier.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering if you would be able to give me some sort of a breakdown on the property maintenance figure for 2022. It's considerably higher than both the actual is considerably higher than the approved and the 2023 approved as well.
Chris, can you break that down? From memory?
Not from memory. There was a lot of things that broke down. I think they had to get a new, was it a heater or something they required? New windows they're getting as well that had to be done. Anything that had to be done on the property that was outside the budget. I'd have to go back and actually take a look at every entry. I don't have access to that at this moment.
That's fine. New
more
windows,
details.
I'm sure cost quite a bit. Thank you.
Okay, other.
Well, I know they were putting them in this year, so I don't think they actually them in 2020.
Yeah. Other comments or questions? Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. And this is just the rental opportunities. And I sort of struggle with that one because we're renting out something that we're renting. Are we?
Absolutely. We are leasing, or Launchpad is leasing that building, yes. But as a lease, we can sublease it, you know, because we have the infrastructure, we have the certified kitchen, we have the welding bays, we have the wood shop. So we're looking for opportunities that people in the profession, they would like to use it to host their, you know, train their staff or have an event or whatever that may look like. Or maybe it's a chef that needs commercial kitchen space to create one of their products for distribution, like things to that nature. So it's more so it's not really, we're not trying not to compete with the facilities that the town has. It's to utilize that infrastructure, that property maintenance. You know, those numbers are reflecting the investment we need to make into that infrastructure to have these unique features. So let's leverage that and let's utilize it to the best that we can.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands. Thanks, Chris. Item 14.2 is report PRC 0623. The subject is the Canada Day of this year, and it's from Laura Kristen, our Director of Parks, Recreation and Culture. Laura?
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. Save the date, July 1st, mark the calendars. Certainly, Canada Day celebration has been a long-standing tradition in the town. And we are pleased to announce our Canada Day celebration will be returning to Heritage Square. And we've got a wide range of activities for the whole family. The festivities will begin with a free swim at the Aquatic Center at 10 a.m. And then the events at the Heritage Square are scheduled to start at 11 a.m. Mayor Patterson will share opening remarks, as well as we have a mix of entertainers from local musicians to perform throughout the day. But that's not all. The local archives at the St. Matthew's Church, as well as the Clock Tower, are going to be open with the Heritage Committee members on site to share their knowledge and artifacts. As well, a free salsa and rhythm class is going to be in the plaza starting at 12:30 p.m. And the Hanover Rotary Club will host their barbecue if you're looking for something to eat, as well as Lance kettle corn and snow cones will be available. And a very popular event is always our children's carnival. So the summer camp staff are currently organizing a carnival that will feature a variety of family fun games, activities, and prizes, along with face painting this year brought to you by The Match. To facilitate a safe event, the Canada Day celebrations will require the road closures from 11th Street from 10th to 11th, as well as the municipal parking lot that is located behind the CIBC and Rexall. The financial implications, the total budget for our Canada Day activities is 4,800. Heritage Canada has provided a grant of 1,800, as well as the DIA $1,000. With the 2023 special events area within the budget, there is $2,000 that has been allocated towards Canada Day. So the projected event expenses at this time are 4,500. And please note that the facility camp staff costs, as well as PRC staff, is covered within the PRC budget. The links to this strategic plan is number 1 in economic development, as well as number 2, community. And the recommendation before you this evening is that report PRC 06-23 Canada Day 2023 be received for council's information.
Thanks,
Any
Laura.
questions?
I know I'm looking forward to the salsa and Latin rhythm class because Councillor Fleet said he was going to participate in that. So. Are there any comments or questions for Laura? We'll see Councillor Fleet there, I'm sure. So thanks, Laura. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's not really a question. It's just a kudos to you for getting the grant from the Heritage Canada to help defray some of the costs. So good job.
Okay, item 14.3. This is report PW 1523, the 2022-2023 drinking water system inspection report from Mr. Cooper, our Director of Public Works. Ron.
Thank you, Worship. What you have in front of you here is the report from an inspection that was done by the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks on February 27th. It was an unannounced inspection. Typically, we're having inspections of our water system done on an annual basis. Previous one was done December 16th of 2022. The primary focus of this inspection is to confirm compliance with the ministry's legislation, as well as evaluating performance with the ministry's drinking water policies guidelines during the inspection. The inspection itself is attached. It's on pages 98 to 127. It went through a series of questions, which the inspector was looking at records and documentation that we had to answer questions related to our system. Following that, there is another document which starts on page 128, which actually assesses the inspection report that they've done, breaks it down into different categories of the inspection, and comes back with an inspection rating. And answering the questions, we came through with no non-compliances, and pleased to report that our inspection rating was 100% for the report. Following that, there is some documentation. The last 3 pages, I believe, 130 to 132, 133 actually talks about the ministry's protocol for doing the inspections. You know, it's a great tribute to our staff that are on call and looking after the water system. As we know, we get call-ins throughout the year, but we're addressing them, and they're taking care of matters so that when we have a ministry inspection, they can come back and look at all the documentation and finds that we're following the protocols that we need to follow to ensure safe drinking water for our businesses and residents.
Thank you, Ron. And I'm sure I can speak for council in saying, please pass that on to you, to your staff for that 100%, because it is impressive to see that. So I know they work very hard, and like you said, they're in there at all hours. So well done to them. Council, any comments or questions with the report? Seeing none, we'll move on. Item 14.4 is the Grey County Committee minutes for the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee. And Melissa, can you highlight those?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So the committee met virtually on May 10th and received reports regarding Phase 1 of Grey County's recreational trailhead study, a patio expansion at the Grey Highlands Community Hall in Kimberley, and accessibility improvements to Georgian Bluff Park areas. They reviewed the Grey Roots Museum and Archives draft accessibility plan, as well as the Town of Hanover's multi-year accessibility plan, where no changes were recommended or requested at that time. And otherwise, the committee plans to meet again in September.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions for Melissa? All right. 14.5 is Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the Committee of Adjustment met virtually on Tuesday, June the 6th. And we dealt with two minor variance applications. The first was related to a property at 205 11th Ave with the purpose of seeking relief for maximum accessory building from 600 square feet to 1,600 square feet. They're wanting to build a workshop garden shed storage in that in the back part of that property. And so that variance application was granted. And the second application applies to 405 and 407 11th Avenue, which is across from the new daycare facility. And again, the purpose of the application was to install a second driveway on the opposite side of the building. There's currently one on the south side, and they wanted to put one on the north side as well to provide on-site parking for the tenants of that building. There was a little concern about losing a couple of parking spots on the street, but because of that new stop sign that they've put there, it's probably seemed to be a very good idea to eliminate those on-street parkings anyway. So that variance application was also granted.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Okay. Saugeen Mobility and Regional Transit. This is item 14.6. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Highlights from that meeting, we approved a plan to dispose of some spare vehicles. So there was 4 of them. They were in the notes there. You'll see they're referred to as hippos, and that's because they were custom vehicles, kind of rounded, looking a bit like a hippo, and that's why they are called that. And our goal there was to save some money on insurance costs rather than having these vehicles sit idle. We're working on a collaboration with Home and Community Support Services to work together in supplying the needs of the community. We had a report from a manager from his attendance at the Ontario Transportation Expo. He attended sessions on crisis communication, gas tax funding projections, possibility of a permanent transit fund program with a target date of 2026 to come in effect, as well as the impact on with the move to electric vehicles and what that may have as far as available gas tax revenues. The March operational report showed that we supplied 2,058 rides, which was a 27% increase compared to March of 2022. And of that, Hanover had 481 rides in that time frame. The smart manager is in a process of completing presentations to all partner municipalities. He did join us here a couple of meetings ago, so he's just doing that with all the 10 members. Our strategic planning committee is taking on the task of creating a proposal for service level options. And this is the result of some members wanting increased service levels, while the others are looking at opportunities to lower their costs for this service. The East Strat Planning Committee is also working on a possible logo update, social media use, expanded eligibility options for the clients, and data reference for future planning purposes. Those are the highlights, and I will take any questions if there may be any.
Very good. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to ask the question about the discussion as to whether SMART's eligibility criteria could be extended to seniors who can no longer drive. So I'm not sure what the criteria is now and how that would proceed.
Right now, the criteria requires that the person cannot walk more than, I believe it's 150 feet or something like that, and can't easily use accessible taxi service. So for someone who's maybe just no longer has a driver's license, but is able to get around, they would not be eligible because they could use conventional transit, such as a taxi. So we're just looking at this and wondering whether there is need for us to expand that, because they are that demographic has some special needs for their accommodate or for their transportation. And so we're just looking at it. There's no guarantee this is going to change, but it's something we have discussed over the last couple of years. One reason was to try and help drive efficiencies in the business, because a lot of our time is spent with the vehicle being empty because only certain people are eligible, whereas you could be going back and forth across town with someone that's actually making a ride and paying a fare versus running empty. We need to be cognizant of the people who are in this business to make their living as well. So it's a balance that we're trying to take the best approach and see how we can best accommodate the needs of the residents, while at the same time respecting the people who are in this to make a living.
Great, thank you. But so you do, in fact, so people that do have mobility issues, or sorry, who do not have mobility issues, they can still utilize your service to go, for example, to Owen Sound, where it would be not maybe as feasible to use a taxi.
As I said, they need to meet a certain criteria, and they are interviewed when they call in for a ride, and each client is set up on the list. And once that eligibility has been established, and in our criteria, it actually says that we could request a doctor's certificate to prove that you are eligible for that service. It's not something they do very often. Most of it's on an honor system, but the option is there. And like I said, that was the way the service was set up when it was originally established, was to assist people with mobility challenges. And it could be from physical disability or cognitive disability. And that's where, when you get into the more seniors, perhaps that can be a challenge for them to deal with a taxi operator. But again, we need to be aware of and not take business away from those people as well.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, item 14.7, the Hanover Downtown Improvement Area Minutes. Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. DIA met Thursday, May 18th. I'll just go over some of the highlights. Small Business Security Enchantment Grant. There's been no more applications according to Krista at this point. Market Committee report, Linda Fiddler confirmed grant was received, which will be used for advertising. The fall market will run during Culture Days, and they are currently looking for entertainment. The Christmas Festival market was discussed, and with potential running dates. And they also have a new logo. Downtown promotions was discussed. Other businesses, Hanover Spring and Shop and Win, spring banners, and flowers, Seniors Day in downtown Hanover, which has been a real great success. The DIA mailed out a 3Q survey to members after a Seniors Day has been set up. Eat Well Market is up and going. And other than that, that's all I have to report from the DIA.
Thank you. Councillor Fleet. Right. Oh, Councillor Hudson.
I seem to be very inquisitive today. Can you tell me, Councillor Fleet, the flower boxes, are they part of the DIA as well, or just the hangers?
They're part of the DIA and town. No, they're not. I thought the flower boxes were. No, they're strictly town.
So I might clarify which flower boxes are you referring to? Because there's boxes on the bridges on 7th Ave and 10th Street, the ones on the main street. Through you, your worship, I'd ask April to answer that.
So the DIA looks after the hanging baskets and the town looks after the planter boxes that are those black ones that are on the curb side, basically.
Great, thank you. And my second question is the downtown marker bases. What is that? Number 6, downtown marker bases photos at meeting asked to JD who to contact for repairs. What are the downtown marker bases?
Marker bases that are on the walls, are they not what they're referring to?
Those would be where the signs are, but it would be the posts. Right?
Yeah, the posts on the market bear. I think JD's looking at the posts, the light standard posts. No?
So where it says entertainment district, those signs. Yeah, the wayfinding
Waysign.
signs, it's the post and the base, I think he's referring to.
Fabulous.
Either
Nobody.
that or it
Thank you.
it may be the, you know how we have downtown district at either end? I'm wondering if it's those, because those are the oldest signs on the main street, I would say.
That's what they're referring to.
Okay, sorry if I could, your worship. So they're referencing that repair is needed or?
To the base.
Okay, I will speak. I know we've had conversations about this in the past and have repainted the base of those. So I'm assuming they probably want those touched up again. So I'll make a note of that. Thank you.
That's what I understand. Thanks.
Okay. We'll move on to item 14.8. This is a thank you note from the Hawks Nest event organizers for our sponsorship. And I'm just going to read a couple of the lines. It says the third Hawks Nest competition was a huge success. And Hawks Nest, for anyone that's not aware, is similar to the Dragon's Den event. If you've seen that on TV, that's what the Hawks Nest is. So it was a huge success. As one of our community sponsors, we want to give you a great big thank you on behalf of Bruce Community Futures Corporation and the Saugeen Economic Development Corporation. And at the end, after saying thank you, we hope we can count on your support for Hawks Nest 2025. It's every 2 years, and it was a very good event. I did attend, so did April, and it was a good evening. The Hawks, as in the people that donate money to these entrepreneurs and businesses that are already, out there, were very good, asked a lot of questions and gave a lot of information to help increase their business, and thanked some of them who, really made it through COVID when you would expect them not to, because, they're new and hard to promote your business during the pandemic. So, and just some of the different businesses that the young kids, how they presented themselves. And, it's pretty hard to get up there in front of these people that, have been in business for quite some time and are successful, and then a full house at the Roxy Theater. So they did very well. So a good event. Oh. All right, item 15 is counselor and staff updates. And I'm going to start on this side, and Councillor Sacco, would you like to start? I'll give you that if you wish.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm quite happy to start. So on May 17th, I attended the Economic, Tourism and Cultural Development Advisory Committee, where we welcomed our new member, Steve White. May 23rd, the Governance Subcommittee from the Launchpad met. We updated policies and bylaws, and I'd like to give a special thanks to Councillor Cable for all of the work that he did preparatory to that meeting and after the meeting as well. So thank you. May the 25th, I had an opportunity to attend the ribbon cutting ceremony for the new barber shop at Making Headlines. It looks like a great place for the men in our town. On Saturday, May the 29th, my husband and I, sorry, 7th, my husband and I attended the 100th anniversary gala put on by the Hanover Hospital Foundation. It was an excellent evening with live music, terrific food, and some live auction entertainment. On May the 30th, council and town staff took part in a strategic planning workshop with Linton Consulting, where I thought we had a very productive session. On June the 6th, I attended our monthly launch pad meeting. On June the 9th, a second ribbon cutting ceremony occurred at Popeye's Chicken for their grand opening. It was wonderful to see the community response. People of all ages wanted to be the first in line for their yummy food, so that was kind of fun to watch. And that same day, I took part in the virtual meeting for the Community Safety and Wellbeing Committee that I'm a part of. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. On May the 23rd, the Hanover Bentinck and Brant Agricultural Society Hall Committee met, and the committee is currently drafting a project charter, and that will go to approval by the board on Wednesday evening. So we're excited to see that project moving forward. In their project charter, they're going to outline the scope of work, their expected timeline, and next steps towards project completion. So currently, they're hoping that the new hall would open in late 2025. On May the 24th, we had PRC advisory. On May the 25th, I also attended the Chamber Business After 5, and it's a great facility at making headlines. So looking forward to seeing how that business grows over the next few years. I also attended the Agricultural Society Governance Committee following the Business After 5, and we're continuing to work on reviewing and updating board policies for the Agricultural Society. On May the 27th, I assisted with the Hanover District Hospital Foundation Gala. It was a fantastic evening, and there was a great turnout, and I believe it said in the paper that they raised over $117,000. So very impressive, and that was an excellent event. On June the 6th, the Committee of Adjustment met, and then Launchpad had a board meeting, which Councillor Sackle has summarized very well. We did review the audited financials with Barry Heaney of BDO, and Barry does that as part of the town's auditing of the financial statements as well. So we're currently in preparations for our annual general meeting, and we're doing some review of programs and committee reports. So the board does have 3 different committees that are currently meeting every month. And so then those committees can bring back their updated report on what they were able to work on. On June the 11th, I attended Music in the Square, which was with Carl and Marianne Holst. And despite the weather, we did proceed, which was great to see, and to be able to cut the ribbon on the new stage cover, which was fantastic for our first event there. And we do look forward to having Al Crawford, as was previously mentioned, this coming Sunday. On June the 13th, the Disc Golf Committee met, and I'm super excited that we're finally at the point where we're going to be having a grand opening, which is going to be happening in July. And course installation is anticipated to occur, hopefully I can say this, during the last week of June. We've had 10 local sponsors come on board to support the project, which ensures that the course is fully funded. So it's really great to see the community support for our new disc golf course, which will be at the Hanover Park. We also reviewed the course signage. I think this course is going to be pretty spectacular, I must say. Like, it's pretty top notch. It really is. So all the course signage was created using GPS coordinates in order to pinpoint the tee and the basket locations for each hole. And then there's going to be a map sign which is made at each tee, which is showing kind of what that particular hole looks like and what the par is and what the distance is from the tee to the basket. And then there's also an overall course map that's being constructed and which will be installed just by hole number 1 or tee number 1. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that project come to completion. On June the 14th, attended the Hanover Raceway meeting. And so betting is going very well this year, and turnout for race days is looking very positive. So be sure to check out the Hanover Raceway, and they have their racing taking place this Saturday afternoon. I think that's the summary of where we're at this point in time. I did enjoy the Lions Club duck race, which was yesterday, and we had a great council turnout for that event, and they had a beautiful day and great turnout for the car show as well.
Thank you, Councillor Cable. Just out of curiosity, have you played disc golf before?
I have never played disc golf, but I look forward to trying it at our grand opening.
Very good. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. On May the 17th, I attended the virtual library strategic plan meeting, followed by the library board meeting. May the 19th, I volunteered for the library hanging basket sale, and as previously mentioned, they did very good numbers with that and had lots of volunteers. May the 24th, attended the PRC meeting, and then on May the 27th, I attended the Wowza Ladies Health and Wellness Day out at the Saugeen Municipal Airport, which was a great event put on by April and her partners. And it was great to see such a variety of ages at an event, anywhere from, 20s to late 60s. So it was nice that it was inclusive of all people. May the 29th, I attended a library personnel committee. June the 3rd, I attended the opening day of Hanover Raceway. I'm not a huge raceway person, but I wanted to see what it was all about and was able to, converse with Councillor Fleet, and he gave me some great tips on that. June the 6th, attended a virtual committee of adjustment. June 7th, library fundraising committee meeting. And then on June 11th, I also attended the Music in the Park and was pleased with the comments from people that were there about how great the roof and how it all fit in so well with the lushness of the park now. And then last week I did a fire department tour on Monday. On Wednesday, I toured Rural Lake, the water treatment plant and the wastewater treatment plant, as well as on the 15th, I did a police services tour. Very informative and learned a lot. They're very patient with questions, and I'd like to say we're in really good hands with the people running these departments. On June the 15th, later on, I attended the Teeswater Pipe Band was playing at the Hanover Legion in the parking lot. So that was a great event. Not a lot of people, but they did a great job. And then on yesterday, I also attended the duck race and the car show, and they had over 150 registered cars. Great event put on by the Lions Club, and perfect day, and wonderful to see once again the different age ranges that attended that particular day. And just kudos to all the all the volunteers and all the different committees and groups that do put on things for our town. And I just want to say a little bit about the Horticultural Society as well, who have planted the flower beds around town again this year. So they do the Hanover Cemetery, Heritage Park, the Burns Parkette, Hanover Legion, P&H Center, and then they also provide the flower boxes for the north and west bridges as well. And that's all volunteer run. So they do a great job on that.
Thank you. Can I ask, was Councillor Fleet's tips, did they pay off at the raceway or what?
I left early. Yeah, I'm not good at it. He's very good though.
Okay, Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship. Been preoccupied with the Saugeen Municipal Airport meeting on May the 17th, May the 25th, June the 7th. I sent out a notice, and you've been duly informed that Philomena McDonald, our airport manager, has resigned. So we're in the position of advertising that and contacting aviation management schools. And hopefully the ad closes on July the 5th. And we hope to have a person in place by August the 1st. I attended the hospital gala on May the 27th, and I have attended a few of these. And what struck me the most was the attendance of younger people. Usually it's attended by white tops, and this was refreshing. And what was also refreshing was to see the enthusiasm and the excitement of our young physicians. Previous years you'd go and you'd think maybe you had 7 or 6 physicians in our community, and now it looks like there were 15. And I know I know talking to Dr. Basili when he retired, his roster was assumed by 2 physicians, and I think they've have a different way of doing the profession, and quality of life is important. So it was really, really upbeat, and I'm pleased that the amount of donations that they achieved. Hats off to the planning committee. I attended the strategic planning exercises all of you have. Concert in the Square, I'm pleased to see that we've started our 3rd year, and thanks to Councillor Cable for organizing the groups. On the 12th, I attended with her worship the Pride flag out here. Attended the chamber luncheon on the 13th. Chief Noel gave an excellent presentation on cybersecurity, and if you've been doing your courses like good students, you'll understand the same sort of thing that the chief was talking about. It really is quite serious. He made the comment that everyone in that room will have their home evaded this year, not by someone knocking on the door, but someone coming through on a link on your phone or your computer. Mayor Sue and I attended a boundary expansion meeting with West Gray on the 15th. I attended the Lions Club Ducky Race, as most of you did yesterday. I was so impressed with the number that turned out, and the car show was excellent. Thanks again to the Lions Club. They're a great service club for our community. And I attended a police services board meeting this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Worship. May 17th, on behalf of Councillor Cable, I attended the Hanover Benny Brant Agricultural Society General Meeting. The Ag Society is very important to our community, just with the fair and races on, and it's really good to hear what they have going on. May 20th, I attended the library fundraising event at Canadian Tire. We got our hanging baskets. June 3rd, I attended opening day at Hanover Raceway for the season. The national anthem was played by Walkerton District Community School Band. The day was well attended. It's nice to see the races up and going. June 4th, I attended the Royal Canadian Legion Decoration Day service at Hanover Cemetery. Strategic planning session. June 9th, I attended the grand opening of Popeye's Chicken. June 17th, I attended the Eat Well Market in Heritage Square. It's nice to see it up and running for another season. I've been attending my committee meetings, and I also the Lions Club duck race and car show, and thank you to the Lions Club for hosting this event.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Most of the stuff that I attended has already been mentioned here, so my report will be somewhat short. I do need to call out the Hospital Foundation, though, in the way that they made the arena floor look like just a really such a high class session. It was very impressive that you can transform an arena to look that way. So well done for the Hospital Foundation. Congrats to the Lions Club for the job yesterday for the car show. And I will leave it at that. Thank you.
I'm similar. I'm not going to repeat any of the ones that I attended, but I do want to say I'm very pleased with the facilitators for our strategic plan session. I like their process, and they do drill down to get you thinking about issues and what's happening and what we think is going to happen in the future. But I was very pleased with that first session. So I'm looking forward to the second one when we have the results from the survey and the focus groups in. A couple of things that are different that I attended was the Paisley Choir concert, which is held at the St. Matthew's Church here. They put a concert on in Owen Sound, Paisley, and Hanover, and they actually practice in Paisley, so they're called the Paisley Concert Choir. And my connection there was Don Smith. Him and his wife Anna sing in the choir, and he said, "Oh, Sue, you should come sometime." It was a lovely choir concert, very good. So I'm pleased I went. I also attended the Alzheimer's Walk at Sulphur Springs Conservation Area. A lot of people out, and an excellent day for the walk. A police zone meeting And another interesting one was the lip sync battle that was put on by Bruce Gray Mentorship. It was a full house at the Legion. There was 7 entries, and it's really interesting to see what people come up with that they can do the lip syncing to. And it's not as easy as you would think, but it was a good success for them. I'm sure they would raise some funds. I attended the Air Cadets annual review and of course brought greetings on behalf of council. That was well attended with the Air Cadets and their families, and it was held in the Legion parking lot this year, a little different, but it worked out very well. And the Special Olympics torch run was also took place, and there was municipal police services from Saugeen Shores, Hanover, West Gray, and Owen Sound, and they visited each place. And here in Hanover, everyone walked from the clock tower up to Grants, where refreshments, and I'm not sure if there was a barbecue or not, was donated by John and Cheryl Grant for the torch run. So it was very good. All right, and at this time, I will ask staff if they have anything they would like to share and update. No? Oh, you do? Please go ahead.
Everybody's shaking their head. They want to get home, but I have 2 quick things, and thank you, Mayor Sue, for noting the strat plan and others, but just to say thanks to our residents. While we didn't hit my goal of 700 completed questionnaires, we did hit 457, which is a respectable number. So thank you for that. And thank you for taking that time to answer those questions that will help to guide council and staff with our directives for the next term of council. Our Hanover Prize Pack winner, we had 280 residents who provided their name for that. So the winner will be announced soon for that Hanover Prize Pack. Secondly, I just, for our listening public, just want to note that we have established an interdepartmental team to deal with encampments. So that's again, perhaps rough camping that may show up on some of our town properties. We had a really productive meeting at the end of May, and we definitely have some action steps that we will be undertaking should that be identified. And that's in partnership with our partners at Grey County as well as Hanover Police Services. So I would just say to our residents that should you note rough camping on town property, to please let either Parks and Recreation, Town Hall, there's a number of avenues, or use our customer service portal for sharing that information. And then we as staff, as a team, have a clear process on how we will be dealing with that and what our steps are. So thank you.
Very good. All right, item 16, planning and other meetings. All of our meetings are listed on this agenda and of course on our website. Item 17, dates to remember and announcements. The next committee of the whole meeting, September 5th at 4 p.m. Our next regular council meeting is July 17th. We have 1 meeting in July and 1 meeting in August. And we have our second special council meeting for strategic planning, our working group, July the 5th at 11 a.m. Are there any notices of motion at this time? Seeing none, we do not have a closed meeting, and I need a mover and seconder to adjourn at 6:38. Councillor Hocking and Councillor Cable, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Good